Aleppo's governor has told Al Jazeera that the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces have left the city after days of conflict. Government forces have been coordinating the withdrawal of SDF fighters on buses out of Aleppo overnight. It comes after the Syrian Army took over the Kurdish-majority neighbourhood of Sheikh Maqsoud. Army and SDF forces had been fighting throughout Saturday. In one attack, an armed drone struck a government building where ministers were addressing media. A week of conflict broke out after talks to integrate the SDF into the National Army collapsed. The SDF's commander-in-chief issuing this statement: "We've reached an understanding that leads to a ceasefire and securing the evacuation of the dead, the wounded, the stranded civilians, and the fighters from the Ashrafieh and Sheikh Maqsoud neighbourhoods to northern and eastern Syria. We call on the mediators to adhere to their promises to stop the violations and work toward a safe return for the displaced to their homes." All right, let's bring in Ayman Oghanna now, live from Damascus. And Ayman, the last of those SDF forces appear to be leaving Aleppo, but what more do we know about the agreement that was reached?
That's right, Anna. The SDF forces who have been fighting Damascus in Aleppo since Tuesday have now left the city on buses to the northeast. SDF Commander Mazloum Abdi said in a statement early this morning that they had reached an understanding for a ceasefire. He also thanked international mediators. The key mediator in dealing with Damascus and the SDF is, of course, the US. We know that US Special Envoy to Syria, Tom Barak, has been in the region working on this and talking to both sides. The US is in a key position to mediate because it enjoys very close ties to both the SDF and to Damascus. More than a decade ago, the US started working with the SDF to eradicate ISIL in Syria. They have trained the SDF, they have equipped the SDF, they have fought alongside the SDF, and indeed 900 US soldiers are currently stationed in SDF territory. But then we've seen another change in their building of closer, deeper ties to Damascus. Just over a year ago, Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara was designated a terrorist by the US with a bounty on his head. But in several meetings, they have deepened and strengthened ties with Washington, including last November when President Ahmed al-Shara was in Washington and formally joined the coalition against ISIL. Now, ISIL may be a factor in bringing these two sides together, with the US brokering partnership. Even tonight, the US has struck ISIL positions in Syria. So the US has a key role to play in mediating the ceasefire, where fighting has killed more than 30, wounded almost 200, and displaced 160,000 people. Whether this ceasefire will hold will depend on the brokerage of the US. Yeah. And if this ceasefire unravels, it'll threaten not only the situation on the ground, but also the fragile diplomacy that's holding Syria's national unity in place.
All right, so a ceasefire at the moment, but does peace reign? Is this the end of fighting in Aleppo?
Well, Syrians would certainly hope so, but there are a lot of problems. The main fault line for this crisis has been the failure to integrate the SDF into Damascus institutions. This is the backdrop in which we've seen fighting. Last March, there was a so-called historic deal between Damascus and the SDF to integrate the SDF into government institutions and security forces. They were given a deadline then to integrate by the end of 2025. Obviously, we're now in the new year, well beyond 2025, and the failure to integrate has sparked these clashes. There are a lot of issues that remain unresolved and might be unsurmountable in terms of integration. The SDF has, estimates vary, but between 50 and 90,000 fighters, well-trained fighters equipped by the US. Damascus would like to see these fighters come in under government control, whereas the SDF would like to hold autonomy and command structure over these units. Now, this recent fighting might be a step that will motivate the SDF to take more seriously integration into the Syrian state, but it might also, conversely, be a reason for the SDF to be suspicious of Damascus and retain control of their forces in order to preserve autonomy in the northeast of the country.
Ayman, thank you so much. That's Ayman Oghanna joining us live from Damascus.
Don't miss out. Get a full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.